Hello, welcome to the JDA podcast. My name's Dan and I'm with Joe.
Hello.
And I'm with Alex.
Hey up.
The latest news is that Wembley is set to host the 2023 Champions League final. The 90,000 capacity stadium was last hosted by the Champions League in 2013. And there is also a new UEFA Europa League 2, that's what it's called, we'll have 32 teams and a group stage similar to the Champions League and Europa League format, and the new competition will be introduced in 2021.
Also, John Stones is out, injured for 5 weeks with a muscular injury. So City will only have one centre-back, Otamendi, and Fernandinho will probably start as centre-back.
Real Madrid failed to register a single shot on target in the Champions League for the first time since 2003-04 season, when they had a match against PSG, which they lost 3-0. But they did have 2 goals disallowed, one from Bale and one from Benzema, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyway.
Callum Hudson-Odoi has also signed a new 5-year deal with Chelsea, and Manchester United under-23s defender Max Taylor has also returned to training this week after responding well to the cancer treatment. We wish him the best of luck and hope he does well.
Hugo Lloris has came out and said Spurs are not built for Champions League success. He is the captain of Tottenham and he did take them to the Champions League final last year, but I think it's a bit stupid to say, and it'll probably ruin Tottenham's squad morale.
Now it's time for Goal of the Week. My Goal of the Week is Tomori versus Wolves. Willian puts it in, I think it's a free kick on the right, and he puts it in just outside the box, and Tomori gets a ton of whip behind it and just puts it in the top left. Rui Patricio had no chance.
Well, I liked Newcastle versus Liverpool. Jetro Willems running down the left, turning Alexander-Arnold and blasting it into the top right corner.
Well, my favourite goal was Moussa Djempo's against Sheffield United. Dribbles past 3 players, gets it into the box, turns one, and then puts it into the bottom left past Dean Henderson.
It's game week 6 in the Premier League, and we're going to give our score predictions. Our first game is Southampton versus Bournemouth today on Friday at 8 o'clock. Southampton won 1-0 away last time at Sheffield United. Djempo with the goal, as Alex said before, so I reckon they'll carry on the run and get a 1-0 victory.
I'm probably going to go with 1-1 because Bournemouth aren't the best away from home. They're quite good at home but not away, but I reckon they'll get a point out of it.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think it's going to be 1-0. 12:30 game tomorrow is Leicester versus Tottenham at the King Power Stadium. I think it's going to be a 2-0 win for Tottenham.
I agree that I think Tottenham are going to win, but I think Leicester are going to put up a fight, seeing as they're at home, so I'm going to go 2-1 Tottenham.
Son is on form at the moment, but so is the Leicester team in whole, so I reckon a 1-1. And the next game is the 3 o'clock kickoff between Burnley and Norwich. Burnley have had a decent start to the season, but have not got the points to show for it, so I reckon 2-0 for Norwich.
I'm probably going to go for 3-0 to Burnley. It's quite a weird prediction, but I think Ashley Barnes going to get a hat-trick for some reason.
Yeah, I think Norwich will win this one. 1-0. Played it safe.
The next game is Everton versus Sheffield United. Everton have been doing alright at the moment. Sheffield United have done well coping with the Premier League, so I reckon Everton 2-0 to them.
I think it's going to be an Everton win. They're doing better at home, like much better at home than away from home. So I'm going to go 4-1 to Everton.
Yeah, I think Sheffield United are handling the pressure quite well in the Premiership, but I don't think they'll be able to cope as good as they did against Chelsea with Everton, just because I think Chelsea was a one-off, 2-all, and I think Everton will win 1-0 this one.
The next game is at the Etihad. It's City versus Watford. Man City lost 3-2 against Norwich last week. wasn't a good result for them. John Stones is injured. Otamendi's their only centre-back, as we heard before. And I think City, I know they've still got a rubbish defence, but I reckon at least a 3-0 win for Man City.
So yeah, as Dan said, I think it's going to be easy for City, seeing as they're at home to bottom of the league. But then again, Watford, I've got a new manager, so I'm going to go 3-1 City.
Yeah, I don't think Watford have a chance. I think City are going to beat them at least 2-0, just because they're doing pretty well.
The next game is Newcastle versus Brighton on Saturday at the 5:30 kickoff. Newcastle, of course, went to Liverpool, held the lead for about two minutes or so, and then Liverpool came and just smashed them out of the park. So I reckon Newcastle will win 1-0.
I also think that Newcastle are going to win, but I don't think they're going to win very convincingly. I think 2-1 to Newcastle, but I think Almiron's going to get his first goal.
I think it'll be a pretty hang-fire game. I think 1-0 Newcastle, though.
The next game is West Ham versus Man United on Sunday at 2 o'clock. United played Leicester last weekend, got a clean sheet, which is really good, and they've had plenty of injuries as well, and they've won in midweek against Astana 1-0, and Mason Greenwood got his first goal, which was good. So I reckon 2-0 win Manchester United.
Yeah, Manchester United have kept 2 clean sheets in 2 games and won 2 in 2. But I think it's going to be an upset, and I think West Ham will win 1-0.
Personally, I think it'll be a 2-1 victory for Man United.
The next game is Crystal Palace versus Wolves, also at the 2 o'clock game. Wolves lost against Chelsea. I think they're in 17th at the moment. Not had a very good start, but then they've also had the Europa League as well to play in. So, yeah, not very good for them. But I reckon Crystal Palace will win 2-1.
Yeah, I think Wolves have been playing alright. It's probably more away from home, but I can't see them winning this one, so I'm going to go 1-1. Yeah.
I reckon it'll be 1-1, but in my heart, I kind of want a 2-1 victory for Wolves.
The next game is on the Sunday as well, the 4:30 game, and it's Arsenal versus Aston Villa. Arsenal have had a decent start to the season, apart from that upset last week against Watford 2-2. They were 2-0 up. They looked like they were going to win it up until they conceded, and then that penalty from Roberto Pereira. Watford actually had 31 shots on target, which is the most Arsenal have ever seen in the Premier League. So I reckon a 2-0 win Arsenal.
Villa have not been that good on their start to the Premier League again. Arsenal have not been that good defensively, but they did keep a clean sheet in the Europa League. So I'm going to go 4-0 to Arsenal.
Well, being an Aston Villa fan, I think we can get a 2-0 win. Just because Arsenal's defence has been shocking for the past few weeks. But I don't know, it might be a kind of optimistic approach.
Yeah, very. Wesley does run like a dinosaur, to be fair. But anyway, Chelsea versus Liverpool is the next game on the 4:30 on Sunday, and Chelsea have had an alright start to the season. I mean, Tammy Abraham's, I think he got a hat-trick last weekend, actually, which is really good for him. And an own goal, yeah. But I think Chelsea will manage to stay in there, and I reckon 1-1.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster for Chelsea. Just winning against Norwich, and then drawing at home to Sheffield United. But yeah, I can see them doing all right against Liverpool. I'm going to go 1-1.
Well, I think Liverpool will be pretty much unstoppable this season, but with Tammy Abraham, I don't know. I'm saying 1-1.
So this is the part in the podcast where I talk about the Champions League. So it was first Champions League games this week. We saw Valencia win away at Chelsea, and we saw Napoli beat Liverpool, the holders of the Champions League, 2-0. We also saw Erling Haaland become the youngest player in the Champions League to score a hat-trick since Wayne Rooney. Dortmund held Bayern to a 0-0 draw, and had a penalty saved by ter Stegen. Atletico Madrid came from 2-0 behind against Juventus to draw 2-2.
Kieran Trippier, what a ball in, by the way. Absolutely class.
And Angel Di Maria becomes the first player to score a double in Champions League against Barcelona and Real Madrid. And Man City dominated Shakhtar Donetsk 3-0 with Mahrez, Jesus, and someone else getting a goal.
Now it's time in the podcast for the big debate. This week we're talking about Tyrone Mings and El Ghazi having a little bit of a headbutt or two, shall we say. Joe will give his opinion on it first.
Yeah, El Ghazi has always had a bit of fire in him, and we've known that from the start. I think Dean Smith will do very well to control him. I think Tyrone Mings he was getting a bit frustrated, really. I don't think it'll lead to anything in the future. I think they'll sort out the differences in the training field.
Now it's time for Alex's opinion.
So when I first saw it, I was like, wow, I don't expect that to happen in football teams, and especially not Premier League teams, because they're meant to be professional players. And if you're doing stuff like that, like Tyrone Mings, is he the captain? Yeah, he's the captain, isn't he?
No, Jack Grealish is the captain.
Oh, Jack. Well, it shows he can't be the captain if he's doing stuff like that. And like the centre back, he's an England player. If you're supposed to be professional, and if you get in fights with teammates, like it's not professional. And if you want to stay in the Premier League, you have to be on the same wavelength as your teammates and everything. So you can't be doing stuff like that.
My opinion is, Alex summed most of it up, is that I think it might affect the team morale a bit, because El Ghazi and Mings, I don't know, they look like two characters in the dressing rooms. But I think Dean Smith will actually get a hold of the situation. I think they actually shook hands at half-time to say, yeah, it's okay, we'll just go again and we'll forget about it. So I think it's not much of a big thing.
So now we're going to discuss our opinions on VAR. So personally, I think after a goal is scored, unless there is reasonable debate as to its legitimacy, I don't think they should consult VAR. Once a goal is scored, it's done.
Well, I'm not very happy with it, because I think it takes the smoothness out of football. Because a lot of football fans now, when they score a goal, they always celebrate half-heartedly because they're scared that it might get overturned, and then like there's no point in celebrating. We've seen it in City versus Tottenham when they had a goal disallowed in like almost stoppage time, which probably will have a giant effect on the title race, because like they've lost 2 points there. That's them 2 points behind Liverpool, and yeah.
My opinion is, I think in the World Cup in 2018 it worked quite well. Everybody was really happy with it, apart from the people who lost, but that's obviously the reasons why they're annoyed. I also think, though, like Alex said, it ruins the atmosphere a bit, because if your player scores, in the future they might not even like celebrate until they actually know that it's a goal. So it ruins that element, really. And also, managers after the game will just screw it just because they've lost because of that. We've seen it in the Tottenham City game, where Guardiola's come out afterwards and say some go against and some are good for you, which sums it up really. I think he's quite honest in that way. But then people like Nuno Espirito Santo,